position to order. And we start from the water treatment plant operator trainee position. And, oh, left, he's not here. Well, this is a position that we have approved at on the budget. And we have some, I understand we have the canvassing letter and at least 2 answers. So I would propose to have the interviews as soon as possible. This canvassing list is going to be off by the end of this week. Tomorrow morning, Laura is going to call to get an extension of a week. So if we can have the interviews sometime this week, I won't be able to hire this person next Monday, if that's all right with you.
The list that ends on the 18th?
Yes. And I just talked with Chris, and he is very much ready to have a new person there, have a lot of overtime. So, all right. And then we have the fire department report for June 2018. Have the building inspector's report for June 2018. The justice report for July 2018. I don't know who put the advertise for administration position on the board, on the agenda, so.
I could bring that up, I guess.
Okay.
Have we decided to go ahead and start advertising for that position, or are we just going to be waiting to see how the other applicants turn out with the treasurer and the
Well, if you read on the charter, according to our charter, the administrator is the combination of treasurer and clerk.
Okay.
So I thought for the time being we advertised for the 2. We have quite a few applicants.
Okay. Well, I just thought maybe there'd be an administrator that might be qualified to be a clerk. If we looked at it at a different angle, rather than hiring a clerk to do an administrator.
A regular administrator is not part of our charter.
Okay.
So it's just a clerk and treasurer.
Okay.
That's correct, but it's a position that we've had that I think is still needed, that we should not discontinue. I mean, a treasurer can't do human resources. There's lots of different things that the administrative position entails. I don't think we should.
We have clerks to do the human resources, and I think it's a good idea, but it's going to be up to the board. If you want to create an administrator position, you have to go through the regular legal steps that they haven't been done up to now. So if you're going to go that, the board is up to the board to appoint a committee who's going to come up with the money, with the job description, with everything, come back to you, and then go to referendum. That's the only way to have an administrator position. So, I think for the time being,
since 1967, since when it was originally done with the resolution, it's been illegal, is what you're saying?
ask Mr.
No, I'm asking you.
Well,
I have no idea.
It's a legal question. Let me answer it. I wouldn't go so far as to say illegal. I would say ill-advised to be done by resolution. I think we all saw that, regardless of what the resolution said, there was at least an understanding that it was a transfer of power, and that would need a referendum.
So for the time being, we advertise for the position. We have quite about 6, if I'm not mistaken, for the clerk's position. Applications, we have 4, I think, Mr. Guard? For the treasurer, or 3?
Mayor, I believe we got 3 more for the treasurer over the weekend. We had one from last week that was interested in both the clerk and the treasurer.
Yes,
so we have what I would consider to be 4 treasurer applicants, and I forget what I sent the board, but I want to say there were 6 clerk applicants at that time, and still 1 applicant for DPW. But all the, as of this afternoon, I know I got some Friday night late, and I got some over the weekend on Saturday. All of the applications that we have so far have been forwarded to the board.
So, my question is how long you want to wait before we arrange for interviews?
I think we need to review the applications first and see, that could be done in an executive session, I believe. Can I do a quick review? We haven't seen all the applications yet, so I don't know how we
No, I'm
can
not
do.
saying that. My question is, after you review the applications, of course, how long you want to wait for more applications? That's my questions. My
I think
question
we
is.
should do it as soon as possible.
Yeah, we review this group of applications. If there's applicants that are possible contenders for these positions, we will interview them. And if we do not find a suitable applicant or a suitable person from those applicants, we'll review more, I guess. But I mean, I think we need to stop right now, review those applications, and then start the interviews and see where we go from there.
Okay, so if the board is able to review the applications by the end of the week, I would like on Monday to have some interviews.
Yes.
Is that?
Yes. There could be interviews on Monday.
And then we're gonna need to have them on executive session, obviously.
Mhm.
Okay, and if it's okay with you, we have one applicant for the DPW director position. And if it's possible, to interview that person also. Is that all right? So,
Yeah,
okay. So there we go to red, white, and blues request. I don't know why is again.
I looked at the request there.
Mhm.
Larry, I know there's specific things that need to be done with the different New York State Alcohol Authority regulations here. I don't know as if trash cans can serve as virtual boundaries, if that's, I know we haven't come up with our resolution yet to iron out the specifics yet. We had the law, but we had the resolution that was gonna be drawn up afterwards. So, I don't even know if these things are doable without those specific, that resolution in place yet. Are we?
Well, if you're asking me if we can pass the application requirements that were created by committee prior to receiving the filing from Department of State, I would say yes, because we're trying to help out the festivals. It may be a little late this year, but we're trying to help the people that are trying to do stuff in Fredonia. If for some reason, and I can't imagine why New York State would have an issue with our new laws, but if for some reason there was an issue, then the application would just be a nullity.
Are you comfortable doing that?
Yeah, as long as, I'm pretty sure Larry's familiar with all the regulations right now as we stand.
I have no idea.
I would think, but, you know, I'd hate to have them set up something and the New York State Liquor Authority come in and shut them down because, you know, some regulations weren't carried through, and we don't have those specifically.
Is it the liquor authority that is going to look and?
Well, the applications specifically have the requirements for the liquor authority, the ABC law, and it does make that the responsibility of the applicant, which is reasonable. The way we did the application, you may recall, is that anybody that would be eligible to apply should have that background already, so that shouldn't be a problem there.
Okay.
If I understand it, if the liquor authority says it's okay, it'll be, because that application we were using that you brought as a template is what he's gonna have to use to get approved.
That's correct.
So if they lay that in front of us and the liquor authority is giving its blessing, then I suspect we're gonna be more than okay.
That's assuming they have that filled out. That's a 15-day prior notice that they have to give, and I get
It's
it.
gonna be
I
okay.
think our resolution's gonna require that. I think they're not gonna be allowed to have this. And I don't wanna speak out of turn, but having been on the committee, I think one of the caveats was you have to have that approved prior
Exactly.
prior to the event. I don't care if it comes in 24 hours before the event. you know, we can give you approval pending these things being accomplished. And then if 24 hours before the event you get it accomplished, you're in. If on drop dead day those things aren't accomplished, you can't serve alcohol. And it would really be the organization's decision if they're going to roll the dice and back themselves into a corner on that. That was kind of my understanding from the committee.
And that's where I was kind of going with this.
Yeah.
I can't assume that everything's taken care of and we just kind of stand back and say, okay, it's all right. I don't know. Without,
Like an example would be, in the past, would be frequently, I've seen the board approve resolutions pending an insurance rider. So the resolution is read and it's approved pending items A, B, C. And if those A, B, Cs don't happen, then the event's not allowed to take place. And I've seen that, like, I've never seen it obviously with a liquor thing, because this is new to us, but I have seen it with, like, for 5K races and things like that, where there are things that they need to get in place prior to the event, but pending those things happening, the board is approving it in advance, saying, if you have those things done by the drop dead date, you have our permission to do this event. But I'm not trying to, I'm just sharing, that was kind of my takeaway from our committee.
I think I'd feel more comfortable with that sort of amendment to the resolution, that if these requirements aren't complete.
It is there.
Yeah, the application that came out of committee has that as part of it. You guys got the application. I know you didn't remember it. It's been quite a while. That was actually done before the local law was approved.
But we didn't ever,
but we just didn't pass it because there was no sense passing an application for a law that didn't exist. The only reason we'd consider doing it now is because we're trying to help the festivals and things, and we're under a time crunch.
Jim, any thoughts, Mike? I mean, we should be doing things, I understand time crunches, we should need to do things correctly, and if they don't have
Well,
the.
I think he's advising us correctly that it would, by having it in place, it would be their festivals of responsibility should, you know, like you said, if they want to roll the dice on this, I mean, they'll have somebody to take that vending spot. And if it doesn't come through, then they can't vend. But if they don't, if we don't do this, they have no, they won't even have an opportunity. There's no opportunity.
Our resolution does not state that, as currently the resolution is written. It does not have the caveat in it stating that we will allow you to do this under the circumstances that you follow through.
That's
And
what Dan just
Which
explained.
resolution are you talking about, Doug? The local law resolution or the application resolution? Because the application resolution that came out of committee clearly has that in there. The local law was very simple, just giving you the power to grant
that
an
resolution.
I know, that's what we're talking about. That's why we could pass it before the local law was filed, if we so desired, with the idea that there is a chance that the law will be certified with the Department of State and in time for everybody to comply with that stuff. The resolution for the application is just a resolution, and that could actually be done at Monday's special meeting if you'd like. It's not a local law, so it doesn't need a hearing. Everybody's had copies of it for months. I'd be happy to get everybody more copies by email if you'd like to, but it would make sense to do it just to give them an opportunity, because that's the only way they even have a chance.
Well, that's fine. I believe that we should pass that resolution. And Brad, let me read the proposed resolution for tonight. Be it resolved that the resolution adopted by the Board of Trustees on February 12th for approval of the Fredonia Farm Festival is hereby amended to include a suspension of the open container ordinance to allow for frozen desserts to be made with wine and Barker Common only from noon until 10 p.m. on August 24th and 25th, and noon to 6 p.m. on August 26th, in compliance with all state liquor laws and regulations and all other applicable laws, and that the committee will provide cleanup assistance in the park after the festival. So does that?
I think that does it, because it's got the caveat that says they have to be obeying the New York State liquor law.
Right,
It's-
and that
it's
would
in the
be subject
resolution.
to the application that they
Right.
would have to provide, that was part of our.
So if it's not
I think you're
available,
good.
then they can't do it,
Then they
because it's
can't do
not
it.
available, and that's exactly what
Okay,
that
well,
says.
there's the next question I have. Who's checking the day before this happens? Do you have all the paperwork in
They have
correctly?
to drop it off at our place. They drop off their liquor license. They have to drop off a liquor,
Okay, so you would
liquor
see it.
legal license.
Mhm.
So you would see all the appropriate, okay. I didn't know.
Last year we did. Now, I will tell you, last year, some came to me, some came upstairs, but they eventually came to me. By the day of the event, I had them in front of me. And I reviewed them because
Okay,
I was being really watchful because there was a particular vendor who was trying to use their brick and mortar license and saying, this is a license that I can use to provide a service in the park. And it's not, and you have to have a different license. So I was being really careful to look at the, and Larry was being really hypersensitive to it too, because he knew I wasn't gonna let it happen if it came that way. So everything Larry delivered to me was really tight.
okay.
And I think if they're gonna do what they're proposing, the liquor authority's gonna be the one to tell them, how the boundaries have to be created, what they have to do for their boundaries,
Mhm.
and I'm gonna work off of that.
Okay, that's fine. I'm
Yeah.
glad that you see it at the last final stage.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
thank you.
Yes.
No, that's fine.
So should we, as long as we're discussing it, should we put the resolution to approve the 2 applications for the laws that aren't yet in effect on the agenda for Monday's special meeting? And who'd like to sponsor it?
I think that's.
Sure,
believe
if you
so.
want to. I'll sponsor it.
Do we all sponsor it? Do we all sponsor it?
Would the entire board be interested in sponsoring, or you want to go with Jim or Doug, or what would you like?
So we have the food truck law and the liquor law?
The application for the food truck and the application for the liquor law, yes, sir.
I'll do the liquor
I
law.
was on the committee.
Yes, you were. I remember. Yeah, I don't see a problem in this case, if you wanted to sponsor the resolution or you wanted to be part of the resolution, just because of that committee, as long as we have more than one sponsor. It's not unusual to have the entire board sponsor something like this.
Sure.
Everybody's in favor of it.
The only one that can would be Dr. Barris, correct?
That's correct.
That's correct, yeah, that is correct.
That'd be
Okay,
good,
so let's
thank you.
have those
Okay.
resolutions for Monday.
Hmm.
And finally, the Subway Bay Original Development Corporation membership dues.
That was $1,600, am I correct?
That's right.
And there was a specific line out of our budget that's supposed to be coming out of, correct?
Yes,
Yes.
that was approved, yeah, in the budget.
Community development or something like that, was it?
No, was that what it was, community development?
There's something of that effect.
There was not committee. Well, I
No.
can find
Something
it.
economic development
Yeah,
line.
something like
But
that.
it wasn't, it was
I
definitely.
can find
mhm.
it, yeah.
So, yeah.
But I remember we discussed it. Okay. Now, something that is not here has to do with the purchase orders. We have a lot of purchase orders that have to be signed, approved actually, not signed.
We need,
And-
yeah, we need to appoint, temporarily appoint a person in charge of reviewing and signing authorization for payment of the purchase orders.
It's like a temporary treasurer is what we need to appoint.
Well,
Not really.
Not treasurer. but-
I'm sorry, Jim.
Go ahead, no.
All right, what came up was we do have a growing stack of purchase orders, okay? I went down, I looked at them, thought it would be relatively simple, maybe they were all coming out of the general fund, you know, you make sure the money's there, that the purchases are approved, and away we went. The issue is the purchase orders are drawn on several different accounts, and when I say several, I mean a lot. So what it's gonna do is it's gonna take somebody to sit down and basically, like you were budgeting your own checkbook, make sure the money's there, and that's the approval. Now, it's not approving the purchase per se. Let's say, you know, you wanted to buy cap erasers for your department, all right? It's not approving the purchase of cap erasers, which would be out of your budget. It's approving that purchase order, that the money that you're spending is actually the village has.
Coming out of a specific account?
Yes. And the purchase orders have the specific accounts for the specific departments on them. It's just one of those crazy things where somebody's gonna have to sit down with the village's 18 checkbooks and
This is
double check
only
everything.
until a new treasurer is in place.
I think It's a good idea, somebody reviews the purchase orders too, because just because a purchase order is submitted in that does not mean it's correct or authorized or within the, you know, I guess, within the budget line, and of course, to know which budget and which item, you know, checkbook that they need to come out of as well, but I think somebody needs to review all the purchase orders to see that they are appropriate, and because that person is not here anymore, and we don't, I mean, you can approve them after, I mean, your job, Jim, was to look through them after they went through rec.
After he has already authorized the amounts.
That's correct,
to make
so-
sure that they matched and if the department, you know, if it was something that was discussed or in the budget. Correct.
So we do need somebody who knows.
So I can't do it, but like I said, I do that portion, but, and actually, I don't even know if any of the trustees.
Can any trustee do it? Is that your point?
That's what I was wondering.
Sit
Either
down
that,
and just walk in the
I know
room.
that the attorney can do it because it has happened before. If I remember, actually according to Lori, she said that a previous attorney has done it in the past. She showed me evidence of such on a resolution. That it was temporarily, the previous attorney had done that for a brief time. So our attorney could do that.
Can you explain to me why there were 18 different checking accounts?
Is there really 18?
There are, Mayor, how many did we find? At last count, I think we had 16 at M&T, was it?
More than that.
Okay, I thought it was 16 at M&T, 2
Yeah.
at Chase, and then there were 2 or
Another
3
two or
others
two.
that were from a different bank. And,
Any overseas banks?
I'm sorry?
Any overseas banks?
Not that I'm aware
In
of.
Bermuda or
No,
Bahamas
no.
or something?
The Kirks and Caicos I usually use wasn't on there, so.
No, most of them are M&T, and there are 2 in Chase Manhattan, and there is 1 in New York Bank, which I don't even know, and there is another one which I don't know. So most of the money comes out of the Chase Manhattan one, because that's the where we have most of the money. But some of them come from other. The point is, because it's not only, I'm not sure if Rick used to see what it was and if it was on the budget. But the point is to see if the money is there, and department heads cannot tell us that because they don't have the budget. That's a big problem. And I was discussing this with Lori this morning. That's the biggest problem. I mean, she was like, this is the beginning of the year, probably the money's there. I'm not comfortable to sign any checks like that.
And that's why I wasn't comfortable when I reviewed them last week, because there's no way for me to sit down reasonably and track all that stuff down. And when I asked Lori how it was done, she said that generally they relied on the department heads. But I know we had just had a big discussion about how the department heads were upset they didn't have their budgets.
Correct.
So I wasn't gonna start signing stuff by, that was approved by somebody who doesn't even have a copy of the checkbook. That was crazy.
So,
What
What?
we knew as department heads was what was left in our budget line. I couldn't begin to tell you what's in a bank account. I never even see a bank account. We never look at a bank account. What we see is our budget line has, we've got $10,000 in a supply line. And I know what I've worked away from that $10,000.
Lori
Where
said
that-
that she gives every month, she gives the monthly report, but she doesn't know, does she give you the, how much money is in there? Because she says she doesn't know that, she only knows what you spent.
I have no clue what's actually in an account. I just know I'm working against a $10,000 number, and I'm whittling away against it.
I have to say the same thing. I just, we have our budget at the start of the year. I know each, and just, I mean, so in recreation, I mean, even I have like 8 different accounts that I work out of. But I know as the budget's passed that you folks approve, okay, I start an Excel spreadsheet and there's this much there, and I know exactly to the penny what I've got and what I spend. I'm sure Brad's the same way. I'm sure Chuck's the same way.
But our accounts are not bank accounts. Our accounts are state, they all have the same number. They're a state
Right.
assigned account number, and we just work from there.
There's different times when I've sent a PO over for Rick to approve that I have to wait until the money's actually in the bank or in an account for him to authorize approve it for that purchase. So there's different, I mean, as money comes in from different areas.
Yeah, well, and there are, you know, the regular things. Sometimes you have the money, and sometimes you transfer money from other accounts. They're doing all that. So that's the regular thing. The point is, now we have purchase orders that we have to approve. That's the point that we have to go to decide tonight who is going to do it.
I think this board needs to approve a person with financial knowledge and some concept of municipal spending to be the proper person to do this. I don't think any one of us have finance or accounting experience and even knowledge of any of our accounts or how municipal accounts work here to be
No, Lori
qualified.
can help you with that. The point is you have to have the time to sit down and check against the account if there is the money there. Lori knows where she takes the money from. She knows all the transfers that are made. She's very knowledgeable of that. But she doesn't have the time, or she doesn't want to do it, actually, to sit down and check individually each one of them. Actually, Lori, I'll say other things about that.
Well, she can't officially do it either. She could help show you, but she can't officially sign it. Because she writes the checks. So
There's
can't-
got to be a separation there. She can't
Right,
do both.
exactly.
No.
I don't know, if Dan isn't comfortable doing that,
Dr.
then
Barrister?
he can't do it, I don't know.
I think I can do it, but I'm concerned about the fact that the trustee shouldn't be doing this sort of work. It should be
Yeah, because we're approving the expense, you know, we have to
Right.
approve
An employee.
it at the end.
No, is that?
No,
Because
you
we're
approved
not, the
already
board doesn't
budget.
vote on the purchase orders.
No,
so
it's
there's
already
no-
approved in the
There's no
budget.
votes.
Right, the board voted on the budget. So if it's in the budget, again, with the cap eraser example, if you have a budget line for cap erasers, then the board doesn't vote on your purchase of cap erasers. What you need to do is have somebody sit down and make sure the money is actually in the accounts that the budget lines have in there. So it's just a number crunching thing. And the
As long
fact
as
that
we're
I just didn't have time to sit down on it with you Friday and go through 18 checkbooks to make sure that all these budgets actually had the money in it. I know they're in the budget, and Lori confirmed that. She also thinks that just because we got the tax money, that everything should be, you know, we should be good financially.
I mean, that's what she said this morning, but I won't feel comfortable unless somebody actually sees the money there.
Well, I'm just not comfortable thinking that we're not following internal controls that should be followed, okay? I mean, this isn't a
Why are
simple.
we not?
Well,
I don't know the particular internal controls that you're supposed to be following to do proper accounting practices for something. I mean, if we,
Of course you do.
if we appoint one of our trustees, Dr. Barris, to do this here, and we find out that was totally illegal to do that,
okay, but
That's why we have an
Well,
attorney here.
yeah, there's nothing illegal about having one of the trustees double check the checkbooks. I mean, the board approved the budget. The board department heads are drawing out of their budget lines. Basically, the only checks and balances that we had, according to my understanding, was that Rick would take one more pass through the purchase orders and make sure that there was enough money in the different accounts to cover the bills. So it's really not a checks and balances situation, it's a bookkeeping situation.
well, my thought would be, Roger, you've run how many businesses? You're a business person?
I don't know if I have the time, to be honest with you, Doug, but I don't even know if even I want that responsibility, because number one, okay, it's fine to take a look at a PO or a purchase order and say, okay, it comes out of an M&T account, today has $20,000 in it. I approve a PO today, and then tomorrow I have to go back and call the bank and say, okay, I got another PO today for $20,000, is there another $20,000 in that
No, you're
account?
not gonna call
There
the
isn't any
bank.
kind of,
You're not gonna call the bank.
but do you understand my point? I mean, for me to take a look at a PO and say, okay, the fire chief wanted to order something and it's a purchase order for $20,000, I have to make sure that that money is in this account to pay that.
Yeah.
Tomorrow I get another PO and I gotta find out if the money's still in there to pay it. I'm not gonna be running spreadsheets and books from my house to make sure that these are covered. I mean, you have to have an accounting system to know, okay, I just approved $20,000 today, we go ahead and pay it. Tomorrow I take a look at it and I gotta look back in the checkbook to make sure that the money's still in there. I mean, it's just, that's an accounting practice, it's an ongoing thing. It's not something I could take a look at a PO and say, okay, yeah, that's good, go ahead and pay it, it's in the account. I could have one today and $60,000 tomorrow. I don't know if the money's in the account. What do? Call the bank and make sure that that money's in that account?
Well, there are checkbooks.
No, I don't think so.
But do you see my point? I don't,
Yeah,
how am I gonna
if you
verify
do
that
it-
money?
If you do it for months and months, I understand it. It's just, I'm gonna go through this week.
Yeah.
So that's the.
I don't feel comfortable in doing that. I mean, I obviously have done my own books and have done some QuickBooks and understand accounting, but I also pay people to do that. And if we need to hire an accountant for a short period of time to monitor that, I think that would be the way to go. I would rather approve a PO by talking to the department head and say, is this something that we need today or tomorrow or Wednesday, or when is this coming, so that we could pass that on to somebody that could keep an eye on our books a little tighter. That's just my opinion. I just.
At our last meeting, we did hire an accountant. Did we not?
Not to do that.
Well, yes, and actually that was one of my things that I wanted to do today, and I didn't get to it because I understand they never came. They
I'm
never
sorry?
came to the department. They never came to the to the village hall to do anything because their understanding was that Rick is going to be involved. And so I wanted to know exactly where we stand with them.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got, there's just too many loose ends right now. I don't know.
We don't have the day-to-day, like you say, spreadsheets of each bank account and what's in there and what's due. There's bonds, there's band notes
No,
due,
they're
there's
not-
bond.
nothing like that. This
But-
come from
But there are all
totally
the-
different things. We paid this. We paid. Today, we paid all of this. These are small amounts that, maybe Brad needs to buy small things. The bond the anticipation notes and all the big amounts have been paid. These are done. We talked to the bank, we signed the checks are in, the money is been paid. Nothing is behind.
Jim approves all the invoices. Why can't he just approve the POs? He's already doing it.
I can't do, according to Lori, I can't do both. I mean, she said that, that's what the committee member does, but you can't, I don't go into balancing the same, going into the both parts of it. You have to have a committee member, but you also have the authorization of the person who reviewed it. So that's your checks and balances you were talking about. You have somebody who reviews it and authorizes it, that the funds are there. The committee member, which is myself being appointed as that, signs it, and then it goes to Lori, and Lori makes sure it's paid. So,
Mayor, do you mind if Jim, I hate to put you on the spot, but you might have a little bit of knowledge on the best.
no,
I
this
mean,
is inappropriate.
You did this job for a number of years. I know we're in a situation right now. We have internal control, things you have to follow. Do we need to do things a certain way? If you wouldn't mind, if you don't want to, that's fine as well, but if I can get your thoughts on it.
Are we discussing, I don't think this is an appropriate question for someone in the audience, Doug, I'm sorry.
Because it was,
It's a work.
he was the,
Jim, I'm not
Is it-
knowledgeable on this, you aren't either. The man did it for 30-some years. I think he knows internal controls and possibly some background here. I don't want to go in this blindly and be held responsible for something that we did wrong.
how long, because when you have some purchase orders mounting, and then Lori would like to get them paid, would it be possible to let them go for a week or much more than a week?
According to Lori,
I
some
mean-
of them are already overdue for some reason. So I didn't go through anything. I saw the stock. I didn't check anything in there. But she said she likes to pay everything on time, and some of them were due in July. So I promised I'm going to have an answer by tonight.
Well, you have your, Kevin, he can probably help you out here, couldn't you, Kevin?
It's just a rolling budget. You can physically see your accounts, just like do your personal checking accounts to see if the money is in the bank. What you're concerned with is the budget line there. Because you start with your budget $10,000 for supplies that Brad mentioned. You chip that down as you go, and there are budget changes, well, some minor budget changes towards the end of the year, where it balances out, where he doesn't spend the 10,000 on the supplies, but he needs another uniform. But he's used up all his uniform money, so you transfer the money from one budget line to another to allow him to buy the uniform. So that we're just making sure, what you're checking right now when you're doing the purchase orders is that the money is budgeted for. And we haven't exceeded our budgets.
And this is being that we're at the fairly close to the beginning of our budget year, that shouldn't be an issue then, is what you're saying.
It probably is not an issue yet. But
Can
it
this
could
be part of what you signed up to do?
Well, what I was signed up to do is working with Jim, working with Rick. We'll talk about that, because if I start doing this, then it's going to infringe upon my independence.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
I have to
Conflict of
make,
interest.
that's why this proposal that I sent you was carefully worded, so I'm not assuming any management position, any management decisions,
I
that
understand
kind
that,
of
yeah,
stuff.
I think everybody understood that, yeah.
So by checking this, and then I come in audit, I'm checking my own work, and I can't do that. So no, I cannot do it, or we cannot do it.
I propose that Dr. Barris, that he could handle it.
There is a procedure. First of all, you're talking about the expense side of the budget, correct?
Correct.
And that's either a claim form comes in or a purchase order initiated by the department head. It has to be, the village administrator is the person who approves the purchase orders. And when he does that, what he's supposed to be doing is, before he can approve it, he has to be sure that there's money available in the budget. So he goes to that particular line and he confirms that this purchase order isn't going to exceed the budgeted amount.
Yeah.
Okay? All right. Now, then the bill would go to Lori to prepare it for payment. But before the check could be issued, the claims auditor, which is one of the board members,
Jim,
comes in, and what the claims auditor does is he looks at the bill, make sure there's an invoice there, make sure there's a purchase order or a claim form there, and then technically is supposed to review the budget line to make sure that this purchase doesn't exceed the budgeted amount. Okay.
so what's
Now,
the difference between that and what the administrator did?
pardon?
What's the difference between this and what the administrator did?
I'm sorry, I don't
The
understand.
administrator kept the books, basically.
No, I mean, in this particular thing, I understand that the administrator had to go and look at the budget that it doesn't exceed, but then Jim, or the member of the board comes and does exactly the same thing.
The board is supposed to get a monthly copy of the budget report. The budget meaning the budget that was approved and year-to-date expenditures and the unexpended balance.
Yes.
Okay. Now, I don't know what Rick's done. I can only tell you, I used to present the board with a monthly budget report. Each department had got a monthly budget report. Okay. As far as verifying whether the money is there or not, there's a trial balance, which contains for each fund, the general fund, the water fund. Well, the general water and sewer funds are combined. Okay, and you have a general fund account that where all of the general fund bills are paid out of.
Yes.
Okay, so it's you can ask Lori. She maintains a copy of she maintains the trial balance.
Yes, he has, says that,
And
yeah.
so, like, you have a lot of money. I don't think.
I don't doubt that.
I don't think that there's a concern that you're gonna write a check that's gonna overexpend your general fund checking account.
I don't doubt that, but
Okay.
that's the procedure, and we're trying to follow the procedure. I don't doubt, this is very early in the budget, of course. I just, we're trying to follow.
She keeps a running balance. She keeps a running balance of
she does.
the checking account.
Yes, of
She
course.
can tell you today what the balance is.
Yes.
And so well, that's basically that's the procedure for expending the money. Once the claims auditor has okayed the bills for payment, then she can send out the checks.
So, but we need somebody else, right? I mean, I'm just trying to understand now. We need somebody else, and who's going to be that? That's
From my conversations with Lori last week, it sounded like we needed somebody to actually go through the budget lines and make sure the money was there.
Yeah.
So temporary treasurer until we find a full-time person to replace that. That is my thought on the matter. We need somebody temporarily, interim.
So they said the department has that they can't buy anything?
I didn't say that. I said we continue business as usual. We need to hire a temporary treasurer to take care of this.
But
Johnson
tomorrow
McCoy
morning,
can't
wait a
do
minute.
our day-to-day business and our auditing.
I
It's
understand
independent
that.
stuff.
I
So
understand that, but tomorrow morning, what should I say, tell Lori? That's my question now. I understand all this
I
discussion.
guess,
And the next meeting isn't, I mean, we have a special meeting, is from next Monday, and then we're preparing interviews to hire the next treasurer, so you're gonna.
But that doesn't mean we're gonna have a
No,
treasurer
but-
who's gonna go Tuesday morning and start
Correct.
doing that.
No, but obviously not, but, you know, the thing is, you know, the time to advertise for somebody, you have to advertise for somebody and then interview for somebody and then pass a resolution to hire that person. My guess is you'll be beyond the time that
So,
you're going to have
What should I
someone
tell her
hired.
tomorrow morning? Again, I have a very practical
without
question.
reviewing the purchase orders and knowing they're correct, I don't know if it's proper to be telling somebody to pay those without them being fully authorized. I don't
No,
know.
I understand what you're saying, but.
And that was my position, Doug, and that's why I didn't sign it.
That'd be a smart
Well, that's where the responsibility of the claims auditor comes in. You as acting as the treasurer wouldn't issue a check
Right.
until he's okayed that claim or bill for payment.
So-
But in order for him to do that, he has to have access to a budget report.
Right. Which I don't.
No, I know you don't, no.
Right.
I don't know what to tell Lori tomorrow. I would say, anybody else?
Any thoughts,
I have-
Dr. Beers?
I'm thinking about it at the moment. I think we need
We go into executive session.
Mm.
We are going to executive session.
That's not executive.
Today, yes.
But that's,
All right, well, let's
I don't know.
go
I'll think
ahead.
about it. I don't know what the
I don't know.
proper answer to that is. I would say, do not pay the bills until we know they're correct. And unless you have access to knowing if they're correct, you're authorizing, somebody could put on there, you know, maybe knowingly or not knowingly, $20,000 instead of $2,000. You okay it? The money's in there, it doesn't mean it's correct.
right.
So there's no way of knowing if the bills are, whatever
I mean,
procedure Rick did, I don't
not-
know.
not-
There is a way to do it without, you can go to her trial balance. Her trial balance has listings of every expense account that you have in the general, like in the general fund. So you could go to that, she maintains a year-to-date trial balance. So you could go to the police supplies account, look at the trial balance, and that'll tell you how much has been spent to date. Then you have to get the copy of your approved budget and look at that, and then you could verify that, yes, there's money available. And then as long as the purchase order is in order, the invoice is there, you know, that's what the claims auditor is
Mhm.
verifying. And then you could approve that bill for payment.
Okay, well, let's discuss it further a little bit. And let's go to,
What are we,
hmm?
I mean, when do you want to discuss it further? I mean, I don't know.
Well, Dr. Byers wants to discuss it in the executive session.
That's not
For-
executive
for-
session
for-
For
material.
what reason?
Well, Doug, it depends on exactly what he wants to discuss. If we're
Yes.
discussing Lori's job duties and how that's kind of unusual situation and nobody's really exactly sure what her duties entail, I think that would be a decent subject for executive session.
Well, I think
What
we
is
could
the-
discuss it
the
further.
Suggestion
Jim.
was, we
Discussing a
need to
specific
talk
employee.
about specific individuals who might do this job.
Okay, but this is, Jim, you don't have the time, I mean, this is a full-time job to be doing it, understanding that. I mean, do you have more than 3 or 4 hours to go through all those invoices and through all the,
I don't think Rick did 3 to 4 hours a day doing that.
well, Rick did it, you know, for a number of years here. We're not experienced at this. We do not have this experience to go jump right into this. This is exactly why I continue to say, you can continue to do the checking of that, but we need somebody interim to keep us going through. I really don't see this. That's my thought. If nobody else thinks that's a good idea, then I guess that's the way it is, but.
Well, Dr. Barris has in mind some individuals that he
Okay.
wants to propose.
And they can't
In
bring, you can't
executive
bring that
session, is
forward
that
openly?
right?
Okay, so that'd be good to, we
All
can put
right,
it there.
so let's go to review resolutions. The MBA boot drive request from the fire department. We have the resignation from Adam Tanner as part-time police officer, excuse me. Fire department request for additions and transfers. Ventura Circle resident request to hold block party on the 17th of August this week, 2018. Training request from volunteer firefighters to attend the 23rd annual Chautauqua County Weekend. Montour Falls have a cost of $977.84. Village share $488.92. We advertise for seal bids for Fredonia Fire Department water tanker and fire pump. Finally, approval for purchase of sewer combination truck. Seasonal hire for DPW. Approval to suspend open container ordinance for Farm Festival. Awarding of RFP for environmental compliance and architectural assistance services for La Bella of Jamestown. Okay. Okay. Mr. Esser.
Do we have time to go, we have an executive session, or
Well,
we
we're
go
going
in
to
and come
use the
back out,
40
go back in?
minutes.
Well, I mean, if
Well, you use
we
it
have
for
an
the
executive
minutes.
session and it delays the meeting a few minutes, I mean, that would be, we can get it done.
I hereby make a motion to enter an executive session to discuss employment of specific individuals.
We're not going to finish, okay. Trustee Barris.
I vote aye.
Trustee Linden.
Aye.
Trustee Briggs. Trustee Esser.
Yes.
Be back in 10 minutes.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I call this meeting to order. At a regular meeting of the Board of Trustees of the Village of Fredonia, duly called and held on the 13th day of August, 2018 at 7:21 p.m. in the Trustees' Room, second floor, Village Hall, Fredonia, New York, and public notice of the time and place of this meeting has been given to the news media and conspicuously posted in one or more designated public locations in accordance with Section 104 of the Public Meeting Law.
Be it resolved that in the absence of the village clerk, village trustee, Dr. Michael Barris, is hereby authorized to act as village clerk for this meeting.
I'll second that.
Trustee Linden.
Aye.
Trustee Barris, you have to abstain. Trustee Briggs.
Yes.
Trustee Esser.
Yes.
Okay, and let's go to the second one. Perhaps Mr. Sodaro.
Yes. The second resolution with Mr. Sodato?
Yeah.
That was me, right?
Yeah, that was
Be it
yours.
resolved, guess I gotta make this up as I go, don't I? I don't have any written down in front of me.
Yeah. If you'd like me to take a run at it, Roger.
Go right ahead, thank you.
Okay. The resolution orally made at this time would be something to the effect of, be it resolved that James Sedota is hereby hired by the Village of Fredonia to handle POs for the week of August 13, 2018 at a fee of $200.
I make a motion to accept that.
I'll
Trust-
second that motion.
Trustee
I vote aye.
Burns. Trustee Linden.
I vote aye.
Trustee Briggs.
Yes.
Trustee Esser.
Yes.
All right. I have no report for today. Any of the trustees have any report?
Go
Yeah.
ahead.
Trustee Barris?
I have no report.
Trustee Linden?
Yeah, I'd like to first report that our Village Police Department has received delivery of the new mobile electronic sign. Be very helpful for many
Very good.
situations within the village.
Finally, right?
Finally, yes.
Great.
And also, there will be an informational meeting for the Main Street Grant Program presented by Labella Associates, held on Wednesday, August 22nd at 10 a.m. in the Upper House.
And everybody's invited. Okay. Trustee Briggs.
I have no report tonight.
Trustee Esser.
Yes, I do. Please bear with me. I have a few here, and I had to write some notes down, so bear with me, please. In an effort to set the record straight, I'm submitting the following timeline. This is with the JMA contract that we approved last week. We passed a resolution for Johnson McCoyak and Associates to assist us in our transition. Recent correspondences. On Friday, July 27, 2018, an email was sent from the mayor that stated Rick was willing to come and fill out the needed New York State year-end report due August 31st and stay on through the transition. Rick was not included in the email communications. By the way, I asked Rick how long this report would take to complete, and he said it's not a report that would take a few hours, but it would take a few weeks working on it, 5 to 6 hours each day to complete. The next Monday, July 30th, 2018, initial agenda included under new business a request for Rick's St. George's for a transition assistance. The mayor contacted and met with JMA with the intention and expectation of Rick staying on for the transition and received a proposal from JMA for such work dated July 30th, 2018. I want to be clear at this point, the board had no official knowledge that Mr. St. George was considering a transition period. There had been no discussions with board members concerning, to my knowledge, on this topic, and no contract was in hand. Nonetheless, a proposal was drafted for the upcoming board meeting under the premise that Mr. St. George would assist ongoing. A Facebook post went out and was shared at 8:41 p.m. that there was to date no agenda for the next night's meeting in the hands of the Village of Fredonia Trustees preceding the next evening's meeting. Agenda was received at 9:18 with all proposed resolutions listed for review the next night, including the one concerning a contract for transition assistance to be provided by Rick St. George. No contracts were forwarded for trustee approval. Tuesday, July 31st, 2018, date of the special meeting, 11:07 a.m. Rick became aware of the proposal on the agenda, implying that he would stay on, and sent a text to all saying he had not agreed to come back to the village, and stated he had spoken with Kevin Whitesup and told him he would think about it after a 2 to 3 week vacation. Rick asked that his name be kept out of the discussion and corresponding resolution at the next board meeting. Meeting time. Trustees were provided with a JMA proposal and were allowed to read it during the workshop to review the 3-page proposal written the day before, after the mayor met with them. During discussion of the proposal, numerous times the amount of $15,000 for the proposal came up. That fee for these services will be at a discounted standard hourly rate of $125 per hour, except that we agree that our gross fee, including expenses, will not exceed a total of $15,000. The above fee is based on anticipated cooperation from your personnel and the assumption that unexpected circumstances will not be encountered during the engagement. In the engagement letter, the fees were stated that 2 part-time days per week until the current treasurer has completed the New York State annual financial report. The entire proposal hinged on Rick staying. In discussion, not once was this disclosed, or were the trustees reminded that there was no agreement in the works with Rick to stay during his transition period, and that $15,000 number hinged upon his agreement to stay. Trustees voted on the resolution, and the very next resolution on the agenda was the contract for the transition assistance to be provided by Rick St. George was then removed. Obviously, no agreement was made or in the works with Rick to stay, but in order to get the JMA assistance in place during that meeting, a vote was quickly taken. First, the premise that Rick was going to assist with the transition was boiled into the proposal from JMA. This was a false premise because no commitment had been made to the board verbally or in writing that he was committed to do this. Next, the proposal, although under the false pretense, kept going forward, since it was imperative for it to look as though the sky wasn't falling due to the departure of Rick. Proposals and resolutions were constructed to move this topic ahead. Next, neither the mayor nor the lawyer, whom by the way I feel is obligated to instruct the board on legal issues, pointed out that the proposal up for a vote depended on Rick's consideration to stay. In any event, this topic was pushed through as it currently stands. It is not the $15,000 that was stated and used numerous times prior to the vote, but instead will be much higher if Rick does not come back and the proposal to have a transition period with him is not solidified. I am trying to work to make decisions that are presented to make sure the village's best interest is the priority. I am trying to work with all the members of the board, this mayor, and village employees on this topic and many other topics. The manner in which this proposal was presented was deceitful. I have to wonder if the timing was on purpose so that the trustees would just be blindsided and rush to make a decision that we were not able to fully digest until after the meeting. I am disappointed that Dan Gard, our attorney, did not point out the fact that the contract hinged upon something we did not have in place at the time the vote took place. Mayor, I read your editorial in Sunday's paper, and my takeaway is this: if your actions do not align with your words, then I cannot trust that this village will ever move ahead under this administration. Therefore, I move to rescind the resolution because the original resolution stated that the accounting services would not exceed $15,000. To date, without any communication or solidified contract with Rick, this dollar amount is not a valid one and needs to be removed from the resolution before a new vote is placed.
What I have to say is that I didn't understand any of this. It was not hinged to anything. Kevin was there. He offered himself, because he's a friend of Mr. St. George, to go and talk to Rick. He did that. He came back. He said that I understand that Rick maybe is interested in doing something. This was not part of our agreement. This is not part of whatever you passed. It was never part of that. That was an additional thing. Maybe Rick will be available, willing, here. He's in Texas. I have no idea where he is. That was never the thing. That was never part of this agreement. That day, yes, I had to make sure that the sky was not falling. So I was working with banks to find out what money we have. And to be honest, it was very embarrassing to go to the bank and say, can you please tell me how many accounts we have? Can you please tell me how much money we have? And I'm signing all the checks. There was nothing hinged there. There was nothing improper there. We talked with Kevin, and he was good enough to come to the office when nobody was there. Nobody was helping with any kind of transition. He was good enough to come to the office. He said, if you don't mind, I'm going to talk to Rick. He's his friend. Why do I mind? So he went to Rick, and he said, probably he's going to do the report. There was no signatures. There was no promises. There was nothing there. I said, okay, that's fine. And he said, probably he's thinking of maybe coming back 2 to 4 hours a week to maybe help. Okay, that was all right with me. I didn't sign any papers. I didn't put in front of the board to sign any papers to that. I don't understand why there is this problem. You want to rescind the resolution? By all means. The $15,000 is not going to be spent unless there is work produced.
But it was based on the fact that Kevin would have the assistance of Rick to
No,
go
it was
through
based
all
on
this.
nothing like that.
No.
Kevin.
It was anticipated I would be working with Rick. The purpose of the transition was to find out what he did, a little more detailed, where he kept things, how his filing system works and things like that. So when you do replace him, I can work with the new person as well.
Exactly.
And relay that information to him. Normally, there's some kind of overlap.
Transition period, of
A
course.
transition period of some type for training.
But if you don't have Rick's assistance, you have to go back, and that dollar amount is not the same dollar amount.
It's not a problem. I can put together a different one because I feel comfortable enough from what Rick had told me about the annual financial report that is due at the end of the month, that I can finish that part up. Now, I'm not in the position to put together some kind of a time frame. That may be better for Jim.
Yes.
I'm not looking for work for him. I'm just saying this is like.
He doesn't look for work either, but that's fine.
You know,
But, I mean, you tried to imply that it was something, again, like in my mind, what I was trying to push to the trustees. No, Mr. Essek, it was not, okay? Kevin was there, and we discussed it. He offered to help. He offered to talk to Rick. At that point, I would talk to everyone to make sure that the village pays the account that needs to be paid, pays the whatever expenses we have. All our obligations are met. So nothing underhanded there. Thank you. Okay, let's go further down.
I'm not through yet, Mayor.
Oh,
Sorry, this is gonna take a couple minutes here. We haven't met in 2 weeks, so there's a lot of stuff. The auditor topic, just to clarify, Mr. Barris, you said it would be a conflict of interest to have Rito Baggett to assist us with accounting during this transition time.
Yes.
You did not even want to consider them as a result of the perceived conflict of interest to the help of the village with the situation that we are currently in because they do the town of Pomfret accounting.
Yes.
I spoke with Sham Baggett recently, and the conflict of interest would exist if the auditing firm did the day-to-day accounting of the village's activities and then performed the auditing services as well. This is from Sham BLB. CPAs does not have any conflict of interest independence issues simply because they provide accounting services to the town of Pomfret regardless if we were to provide accounting and or auditing services to the village of Fredonia.
Thank you.
So I just wanted to clarify that. Last meeting, we passed a rushed resolution, a bank resolution for bank signing privileges that occurred earlier in the day. On that topic, I found a number of disturbing issues, what was done to get the check signers changed on our bank accounts. First, each bank is required to have in hand a resolution from a board in order to change the authorized signers on the bank account. Since the signers were changed prior to the board resolution approval, I want to know if Dan and the mayor provided all the banks that the village of Fredonia deals with the board resolutions authorizing the approval of them being our bank signers. Banks are required to have the board resolutions on file when they get audited. I cannot believe that the banks that we deal with allowed you to go over and change our account signers without a board resolution in hand, but they did. We don't want to be involved when they get audited, so I'm asking if this was done. Second, there was no emergency to rush over to the bank that day of the meeting and not wait until this board approved this activity. The next morning seems sufficient enough to get this job done and to do it correctly to the letter of the law. Please seek board approval in the future on all decisions being made of this type.
as I said that day, the bank didn't have a problem. First of all, we had to remove Rick's name. That was the main thing. The resignation was accepted, so we had to move that name. The bank was fine to have only my name there. I was not fine. What we did, it was just because I needed to be protected. I'm not going to sign.
Policy, wasn't it? Isn't our village policy to do that, to have two signers, I believe?
That is there. Either the village policy or not is there. I mean, Dan knows better about that. Dan, can you please explain?
Or is it municipal law or finance law that requires, or bank procedures? Village law.
Mayor. Okay, I'm not quite sure where to start. Why don't I just hold my comments until it's time for department head, then I'll give a report form.
Okay. The advertising for the village clerk and treasurer positions was terrible. Although we reviewed a few resumes for these positions, the employment ads were less than appropriate. They were constructed from the village charter duties and did not have employment advertising components such as education requirements, qualifications, or experience needed. Skill sets that are needed to perform the said job need to be covered and conveyed in the future. Ads need to be placed consistent with industry standards and not just words from a village charter. The ads placed for village employment were embarrassing and many people were criticizing and ridiculing them as soon as they went out. I recommend that board approvals needed before such advertising goes out in the future. We did approve that, but some of the projects we got going on, I don't know where we stand with them, the water main
Well,
replacement.
you can ask. You can ask.
I'm asking.
Specifically,
Where do we stand with the water main replacement?
the
Specifically,
emergency
I
thing?
mean,
Are the
Mayor,
easements
I'm sorry to
gotten-
interrupt, but
Sure.
specifically, I mean, this is the part of the meeting where the trustee gives his report. This isn't the question and answer debate part, so if you have something to say, go ahead and say it, and I'll answer your questions
Okay.
as best I can when it comes down to
Okay.
my report.
The North County Water District. Mayor, you went on radio and you were in the paper and you met with the county water district and proposed your own proposal here. Now, the North County Water District is requesting that we come up with a written proposal with specifics, and we did not come up with a proposal as a board.
No, and that's why I have a meeting next Monday, Mr. Esek. I have a special meeting next Monday. I'm calling for a special meeting, so this board can actually give some direction, so we can have something put together, and we can send it to the North County Water District Board. What is the problem here? I don't
You already
understand
gave
it.
specifics of what you had
No, I
outlined
did
in
not
your.
give specifics.
Yes, you did.
I gave one specific, and that, well, nobody from the board did anything. I took it about myself. Yes, we produce more water than we use. So in order to find more money, we need more money. I thought we can sell that. We did not sign anything. The county executive is not authorized to sign anything. I was not authorized to sign anything. We have actually have the obligation to discuss things and come up with proposals. Yes, so I come to this board with a proposal. What is the problem? I don't understand. We're trying to find problems.
I'm trying to make sure things are done right, not unilaterally.
Believe me, everybody tries the same thing, Mr. Asad. You're not the only one.
Thank you.
And by the way, about the whatever you said before, feel free to come here every morning and try to help with the transition. You can write all the advertisements that you like. By all means, talk to the board, write the advertisements.
Mayor, that's why our positions are part-time. I work full-time. That's why we need a full-time administrator, clerk, and treasurer position. I'm not here as a full-time
But
employee.
we don't have an administrator right now, Mr. Asad.
Well, these things did not
Okay,
take place in the last week,
Go ahead,
Mayor.
please. You're all done? Okay. Mr. Gallagher.
My department head report, basically, just to address some of the issues that Trustee Essick raised. Mr. Essick, the attorney didn't tell you that that proposal from JMA hinged on Rick St. George's involvement, because it didn't. I never made that representation that it did. It was my understanding that from the emails that I believed you were copied on, that there was discussion between Kevin Weistup and Mr. St. George about the possibility. I'm telling you right now, the proposal doesn't hinge on it. At least my understanding, the proposal didn't hinge on it, and I would actually advise against it. Mr. Sedota is willing to step up and help out a little bit, and I would say that's probably a better move for the village, all things considered. Additionally, you talked about rush resolutions and deceit and signatures over at the bank. We went over there at Mr. St. George's demand, I guess, to have his name removed from everything. He had sent an email, I don't know if you were copied on it, but I know I was, requesting that specifically. Basically, that he not be an authorized signature after his resignation, which is completely, that's the best business practice, if not, just a darn good idea. So the thing that was, we went over there to have him taken off. The mayor wasn't comfortable with one being the only signature, as she said a couple of times. I agreed to help the village out and put my signature on there as well, which I've been signing checks and stuff. That decision was not done by resolution. That was then brought to the board, and you guys did approve.
After the fact, though.
Yeah, it's called ratification, Doug. That's the way that can work. When you need to make something quick, when you need to do something that demands attention right now, you can ratify the actions of the mayor or whoever after the actions have been taken by an action of the board.
Can I ask a quick question? What
No,
actions of that day needed to
I'm
be-
sorry, before you finish, let me finish my report. Again, the advertising being terrible and awful and whatever. Yes, I put the advertising together, but I did that with the approval of this board. The board said, when I said to the board, the description should be discussed depending on how we sort out what the board wants to do. I said for right now, let's use the job description that's in the village charter. The board had no problems with that, and so I literally cut and pasted the job descriptions from the village charter as I was instructed. Again, not the job of the attorney, but just something I was trying to do to help everybody move this ball forward. So if there's a problem, it could have been raised at that time. That's the end of my report, Mayor.
Okay, I'd like to ask you then, that bank changing of the signing, what was so pressing that day that it could not have waited until we had our meeting and the proper procedures being followed?
Well, again, proper procedures were followed to ratify that decision after is not only proper, it's not even unusual.
I think you pointed out village law states that you have to have board resolution before you do that.
No, I never said
requires-
that, because that wouldn't make any sense. How would I say that board resolution was required before and that ratification was okay afterwards? That doesn't even make any sense to me.
Right, you have, let's go further down. We have the reports, fire department report for the month of June, 2018. I guess I can read it. We have 4 reports of fire, 1 overpressure rupture, explosion, overheat, no fire, 119 rescue and EMS, 4 hazardous conditions, no fire. We have 6 good intent calls, 15 false alarm and false call, and altogether 149 times. And then the building inspector's report. The total fees collected are $7,205 and 2 stop work orders. We have that 36 permits generated $2,155 in revenue. The estimated cost of work for the month was $297,339. And then the justice report. Total fines and surcharges $12,421. Parking tickets $1,139. So to a total of $13,560. And that's the end of the report. Correspondence was received from Tim Winters, Village Fredonia firefighter, on behalf of the Fredonia Professional Firefighters Association, Local 2931, requesting permission to hold an MDA boot drive August the 31st, 2018.
Be it resolved at the request of Tim Winters on behalf of the Fredonia Professional Firefighters Association, Local 2931, to hold an MDA boot drive on the corner of Temple Street and Church Street on August 31st, 2018 for approximately 8 hours is hereby approved.
I second that motion.
Trustee Barris.
I vote aye.
Trustee Linden.
Aye.
Trustee Bridge.
Yes.
Trustee Essek.
Yes.
A resignation letter was received from Adam M. Tanner, resigning his position as part-time police officer, effective August 10th, 2018.
Be it resolved that the resignation of Adam Tanner as part-time police officer is hereby accepted effective August 10th, 2018.
Second that?
Trustee,
I vote aye.
Trustee Linden.
Aye.
Trustee Bridge.
Yes.
Trustee Essek.
Yes.
Correspondence was received from the Secretary of the Fredonia Volunteer Fire Department to transfer the names of Joan Lamphere and Megan G. from the active roles to the honor rolls.
Be it resolved that John Lamphere and Megan G. are hereby transferred from the active roles to the honor rolls of the Barker Hose Company effective immediately.
I second the resolution. I vote aye.
Trustee Linden.
Aye.
Trustee Bridge.
Aye.
Trustee Essek.
Yes.
Correspondence was received from the Secretary of the Fredonia Volunteer Fire Department to transfer the names of Tyler DeRusso and Ryan Fisk from the active roles to the honor rolls.
Be it resolved that Tyler DeRusso and Ryan Fisk are hereby transferred from the active roles to the honor rolls of the J.S. Lambert Hook and Ladder Company effective immediately.
I second the resolution. I vote aye.
Trustee Linden.
Aye.
Trustee Bridge.
Yes.
Trustee Essek.
Yes.
Correspondence was received from the Secretary of the Fredonia Volunteer Fire Department to add the name of Tyler Mattoon to the active roles. Taylor.
Be it resolved that Tyler Mattoon Lucas Avenue, Dunkirk is hereby added to the roles, active roles of the Fenner Hose Company effective immediately.
I second the resolution. I vote aye.
Trustee Linden.
Aye.
Trustee Briggs.
Yes.
Trustee Essek.
Yes.
Correspondence was received from Marianne Fabiano, Circle Party Coordinator, Ventura Circle, requesting permission to close Ventura Circle Friday, August the 17th, 2018, for a block party.
Be it resolved that the request of Maria and Fabiano to close Ventura Circle August 17, 2018 from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. for a block party is hereby approved, subject to the discretion of the police department.
I second the resolution. I vote aye.
Trustee Linden.
Aye.
Trustee Briggs.
Yes.
Trustee Essek.
Yes.
Correspondence was received from the Secretary of the Fredonia Volunteer Fire Department to add the name of James Soller to the active roles.
Be it resolved that James Schuler, Temple Street, Fredonia is hereby added to the active roles of the J.S. Lambert Hook and Ladder Company effective immediately.
I second the resolution. I vote aye.
Trustee Linden.
Aye.
Trustee Briggs.
Yes.
Trustee Essek.
Yes.
I open the public portion now, if anybody from the public wants to speak. Mr. Dreyer.
According to the Sunday's Observer, Mayor, you wanted to end the chaos in the village. But unfortunately, you've continued the chaos by making unfounded statements regarding our village administrator. You claimed he made racist remarks to you, made remarks concerning your gender. And while I was present, I want to say emphatically that he's never made any such remarks in my presence, and I firmly believe he's never made such remarks. It's very troubling that you would make some remarks like that. Rick's worked with at least 5 elected village trustees who were female. He has a number of female employees that work in the village hall administration. I've never heard any complaints from them at all. In fact, I think they get along well with Rick. And your accusations can negatively impact future employment by Rick. They also have the potential of hurting our village. They were very unwise remarks for you to make in the Observer. You mentioned in your end of chaos letter that you were unaware of the position of village administrator when you first got elected. Yet you interviewed Rick before and after the election. You talked to me about the position and village government in general, and I told you we have an excellent administrator. In fact, shortly after you were elected, you told me you read the charter. You also stated in the letter that you wrote to the Observer that the village has no leader under the charter. You are the leader, but on a very limited role. You basically have 3 or 4 functions. Except in the case of a tie vote, the charter doesn't give you any right to vote on board resolution. The day-to-day administration is with the village administrator, just as it is with a hospital or a school district. Yes, I said the charter is based on a strong council form of government, and that is true. That's the way it's always been. There's no preamble to see what the intent of the charter is. A simple reading of the charter makes that self-evident. The village in the past has had state auditors every 2 years. And they have never found issue with the operations of the village. They no longer come every 2 years because they just don't have the manpower to go to every municipality every 2 years. So we hire private accounting firms to do our accounting and do our audits. I've never heard any previous mayor or board member mention or express any issue with the charter. You claim the village administrator has become the most powerful person in the village, having control of finances, workforce, etc., etc. That's not true. The board is the one that makes all decisions of financing, purchasers, hiring, filling vacancies, etc., etc. If Rick puts something on the agenda, it's there for the board to consider and vote on. It almost always goes on the agenda when there is first a consensus of the board members at a workshop to move ahead on a project. My suggestion to the mayor and board to avoid any future conflicts is to follow our village charter. The state village law states that the village charter is not repealed or affected by the village law. We need to follow our charter, and if it needs to be amended, then the board can make amendments, as it has done in the past.
Thank you, Mr. Drayo. I'm going to say one thing. I stand behind every word that I put in that statement. I thought about every word. I stand behind every word. That's, I stand behind every word that I said.
What you said is untrue.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, the public portion is closed. Let's go to resolution.
Be it resolved that the resolution adopted by the Board of Trustees on February 12, 2018 for approval of the Fredonia Farm Festival is hereby amended to include the suspension of the open container ordinance to allow for frozen desserts to be made with wine in Barker Common only, from noon until 10 p.m. on August 24th and 25th, and noon to 6 p.m. on August 26, 2018, in compliance with all state liquor laws and regulations and all other applicable laws, and that the committee will provide cleanup assistance in the park after the festival.
Second that motion.
Trustee Barris.
I abstain.
Trustee Linden.
Aye.
Trustee Bridge.
Yes.
Trustee Essek.
Yes.
Be it resolved that the training request of Anthony Faso, Julius Leon, and Larry Barter, John Weidenhofer Jr., and Steve Youngins to travel out of the county for village business to attend the 23rd Annual Chautauqua County Ronald J. Keddy Memorial Weekend at New York State Fire Academy in Montour Falls, September 7th through the 9th, 2018, sponsored by the Chautauqua County Fire Chiefs Association, are hereby approved at a total cost not to exceed $488.92, and $488.92 to be paid by the volunteers is hereby approved.
I second the resolution. I vote aye.
Trustee Linden.
Aye.
Trustee Bridge.
Yes.
Trustee Essek.
Yes.
Whereas specifications have been prepared for a new custom pumper for the Fredonia Fire Department, and whereas the Board of Trustees desires to purchase a new model year 2018 or newer 2,000-gallon water tanker with 500 to 750 gallons per minute fire pumper for the Fredonia Fire Department, and approves the specifications. Now therefore be it resolved that Ryan Walker, Fire Chief, is hereby authorized to advertise for sealed bids for the purchase of said vehicle. Said bids shall be returnable no later than Thursday, September 4th, 2018 at 2 p.m., at which time the bids will be publicly opened and read aloud in Conference Room 1, first floor at the Village of Fredonia, Village Hall, Fredonia, New York, and be it further resolved that the Board of Trustees reserves the right to reject any and all bids or to accept the bid most advantageous to the Village of Fredonia.
I second the resolution. I vote aye.
Trustee Linden.
Aye.
Trustee Bridge.
Yes.
Trustee Essek.
Yes. Whereas correspondence was received from the Farmers Market Board of Directors requesting 2 additional temporary handicap parking spaces on the corners of Church and Day Streets be made available during the summer operation hours of the Fredonia Farmers Market, Saturdays 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. until October. Now therefore be resolved that the request from the Fredonia Farmers Market for 2 additional handicap parking spaces during the remainder of the Farmers Market is hereby approved.
I'll second that.
I vote aye.
Trustee Linden.
Aye.
Trustee Bridge.
Yes.
Trustee Essek.
Yes. Be resolved that the purchase from Signcon Equipment Incorporated under the Signcon NJPA contract number 022014 of a sewer combination truck, which includes a 2018 Freightliner 114 SD chassis from Fleet Maintenance of West Seneca, New York, at a cost of $99,578, and a 900-ECO 9-yard truck mounted combination sewer cleaner from Sewer Equipment of Dixon, Illinois, at a cost of $248,396.49 for a total sum of $347,974.49, which reflects a $20,000 trade-in on our current 2001 Sterling Clean Earth combination machine for use by the Streets Department is hereby approved.
I'll second that.
Trustee Barris.
I vote aye.
Trustee Linden.
Aye.
Trustee Briggs.
Yes.
Trustee Essek.
Yes.
Be resolved that Andrew Field of 3509 Webster Road, Fredonia, is hereby hired as seasonal labor to work with the Department of Public Works at an hourly rate of pay of $10.40 effective August 14th, 2018, subject to civil service rules and regulations and with no other benefits to be given.
Second that motion.
I vote aye.
Trustee Linden.
Aye.
Trustee Briggs.
Yes.
Trustee Essek.
Yes.
Whereas the Village of Fredonia was awarded funding in the amount of $450,000 through New York Office of Homes and Community Renewal's New York Main Street program to assist the building owner with renovations at 50 West Main Street in the village. And whereas this project requires environmental compliance and architectural services, and whereas funding for such services has been budgeted as part of the grant award, and expenses will be incurred by the property owner, with a proportion of these expenses being reimbursed as outlined in the grant agreement with Homes and Community Renewal's New York State Main Street program to several qualified firms and individuals for environmental compliance and architectural assistance services. Now, therefore, be it resolved that Labella of Jamestown, New York, be retained for professional grant administration services per their proposal dated August 8th, 2018, which will not exceed the cost of $45,000. And be it further resolved that the mayor is hereby authorized to sign a letter of agreement to this effect on behalf of the Village of Fredonia.
I second that.
I vote aye.
Trustee Linden.
Aye.
Trustee Briggs.
Yes.
Trustee Essek.
Yes.
Okay, we're gonna have to go back to executive. Before we go, in your package, you have two proposals from Wendell and Labella for the steps. Please review them so we can discuss them on Monday. And also, we have a resolution here with Lori. If you're okay with a special workshop and meeting for Monday, maybe we can pass this instead of me calling everybody.
Do you have a time in mind?
We didn't put the time because I wanted to ask you, is 6 o'clock okay with everybody?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so let's put 6 o'clock there.
Be it resolved that a special workshop meeting of the Board of Trustees of the Village of Fredonia be held on Monday, August 20th, 2018, at 6 p.m. to discuss any business that may come before this board.
I second that.
I vote aye.
Trustee Linden.
Aye.
Trustee Briggs.
Yes.
Trustee Essek.
Yes.
Okay, and if we can have the resolution for the executive, so we can go to executive.
If there's no further business, I make a motion.
We have to go to
To
executive.
move back into,
Yeah.
Make a motion, huh?
Is it appropriate for me to ask something about something that was the language in here for 50 West Main or not?
Attorney?
Ted, why don't you just, is it a legal question or is it a?
It's just a wording question, and I wanted to make sure it's appropriate to talk right now or not. I'm happy to wait.
No, please do.
Particularly if you want to talk to me after the meeting, we can work it into the next meeting or do whatever else we need to do.
Great.
Okay. So, this is what Nate sent us, so I followed that. And you talked with Nate before?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. All right, so let's go to executive.
I hereby make a motion to re-enter into executive session to discuss employment of specific individuals.
I'll second it.
Trustee Barris?
I vote aye.
Trustee Linden?
Aye.
Trustee Briggs?
Yes.
Trustee Essek?
Yes.
Thank you. Have a good night.